It's Real Talk, episode 24, Rebels Stand Up. Which comedy special will score highest today? New York City comedian Matt Summerstein returns to review Bill Hicks' Relentless. My friend, photographer Jen Tyson is back to score Jesus' Magic. And Real Talk's own Sid the Cinema Sloth returns to talk Patrice O'Neal's Elephant in the Room. Now quick, like this episode, subscribe, and be sure to tip the waitstaff.
Real Talk is powered by Real Digital. If you work for a brand or agency producing content, keep it real by setting up a consultation at www.realdigital.media to see how your next campaign can come in ahead of schedule and under budget.
As a young lion, I started doing stand-up comedy at the age of 17 and have long felt a kinship to other performers who got on stage as teens because I appreciate how much of an impact a comedy club can have on a young person's development. When I watched Bill Hicks, a performer who started doing comedy at 16 under the tutelage of Sam Kinison, I can easily see the influence of both Kinison's explosive confidence mixed with the disdain of Bill's southern upbringing, or at least the token culture that surrounds it. Although the video special was recorded in 1991 at Toronto's Just for Laughs festival, Relentless is credited as a 1992 release, and the audio album was recorded at a different time and contains extended material, but the special remains as Hicks's definitive career thesis statement regardless of the medium. Rather going after anti-smokers, the Bush family, or hilariously pointing out the hypocrisy surrounding American gun culture, it baffles me that in 2026, Hicks seems to be on every right-wing conspiracy theory-loving comedian's Mount Rushmore, but perhaps that speaks more to his true talent and appeal. As is the unfortunate case with many great comedians, his legacy is cemented by an untimely death that Hicks himself seemed to see coming, and it's his eerie allusions to an early demise that taints the comedian's work for me, as with time the material feels less profound and more like an angry young man who became consumed by his observations instead of simply making light of them. I don't mind labeling Bill Hicks a genius, and I do believe he blazed a trail so wide most comics spend their entire careers strolling down it without ever appreciating a time when comedians' opinions weren't considered anything more than punchlines. Even after his death, like all great creators, the work of Bill Hicks will still make you uncomfortable while simultaneously making you laugh, which is perhaps the best genesis for expanding one's mind. Luckily for me, I know a relentlessly funny comedian by the name of Mr. Matt Summerstein, who has returned to the jungle today in his finest black turtleneck to help me review this stand-up comedy classic.
Thank you for having me. Back in the jungle. Round 3?
Round 4?
Round 4?
I'll clip off one of those to make sure we're right.
Perfect. Thank you, Al. You are nothing if not correct.
Thank you. I'm gonna run with that and say, look, it's been too long. Let's just say that.
Indeed.
Much. It's really great to have you back here today. And I knew when I was putting together this episode, I wanted to do stand-up specials because as a young lion who, as I alluded to in my open, has done stand-up and then kind of became a movie lion, I've always had a soft spot in my heart for comedy and a good stand-up concert special. You yourself are a stand-up comedian. I'm curious, maybe you can just give us a little bit of a primer here on both, I don't know, when you started watching stand-up comedy specials maybe for the first time and how that influenced you, and then of course maybe when you were introduced to Mr. Hicks.
I can't say I remember like the earliest days of watching stand-up, which feels a little sacrilegious as a stand-up to not have been like, I loved this form so much that I just had to do it. I mean, my background at the stand-up is just like being a clown, being a goofster, and also the youngest of a bunch of kids with one parent, so just like constantly needing the attention. Yeah, I always, whenever it comes up, whenever people ask like what's the early stand-up special that like you loved, it was like for me Gaffigan at like 9 or 10. Like Beyond the Pale, those early ones, the Hot Pocket ones, whatever that one was. But I remember having that like on the DVR and like showing it to my half-brother who didn't live nearby, who like came to visit with his wife, and it was like, let's watch this together. And I had already seen it, so I was basically like mouthing along to it. But that was like a very, very, very early one that I just thought was so fucking funny, like all the time. Sorry, are we no cursing?
Curse away.
Curse all you want.
We're in the jungle, baby.
You're gonna die. Sorry, I had to do a Guns N' Roses there.
No, we encourage it.
It doesn't, I wouldn't say that it had like anything cinematic to it. Like that's not what drew me in. I don't even know if there was like an intro. And we were talking a little bit before about like the stand-up as movie kind of thing, the special as a film, and like you know, that common, like, walking into the theater and, like, the slice of pizza before, or, like, these were my roots, or I remember getting my start over here, that kind of, like, little documentary-esque thing that happens in movies. The version that I watched didn't have any of that. He just walks out on stage, and it's like a one-night stand type special, or like an HBO comedy special. But this one at the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal in 1991, it just opens like that. With, you had said that they used a Beatles song in the real time.
Yeah,
but they couldn't get the rights to it for the movie.
Yeah, so basically you're talking about the Relentless now.
Yeah, Relentless.
Bill Hicks, when he made his entrance, if you will, onto the stage at the Just for Laughs Festival in '91, which the recording of is sort of the definitive Relentless special, even though, like I said, the audio album is a different recording.
Yeah.
That's definitely not from that show. But yeah, he comes out to the Beatles, and there's even, if I'm not mistaken, at the end of the special, he's mouthing even some lyrics to the Beatles as he's walking away. What we see now, there's this weird, like, Jimi Hendrix knockoff.
It's like a royalty-free version of Foxy Lady or Purple Haze or something. And he walks through the haze to get on stage. He did do like a wink to the audience on something as he walks into the light to exit. So maybe it was, I don't know, maybe Here Comes the Sun or something.
Right,
yeah,
like that's definitely...
He was like, see? You know, something like that. But I wasn't sure what it was.
That is the moment that is definitely the moment
like working
at. I want to throw this in there because I don't have many Jim Gaffigan stories, nor do I often have the opportunity to inject a Jim Gaffigan story into an episode of Real Talk. When I was doing stand-up comedy, as I alluded to in my open as a teenage lion, that's a thing. That definitely happened. Go to McCurdy's website in Sarasota, Florida.
A lion picture right on the front page. It's actually just the MGM lion.
Yeah,
I just used that.
It's my uncle. I was doing stand-up there, big fan of comedy, obviously, is a teenager doing stand-up comedy, and there was this guy who would pop up every once in a while on these late-night shows who I had vaguely remembered from maybe doing a stint on, like, Ellen DeGeneres' sitcom, and it was Jim Gaffigan. And I thought he was so funny that I wrote down his name, and I went to jimgaffigan.com, and I bought all of his albums, and when they would come in the mail, they were just burned CDs.
Yeah.
And later, many years later, I heard him doing an interview where he talked about how his wife ran his website, and they would make these CDs and send them out. And so, yeah, somewhere in my mom's den, there's a pile of
Maxell CDs.
Yeah, that Jim Gaffigan and his wife made. Yeah,
and a printed out photo folded up on the sleeve. Just so many good jokes, and people talk about like how many laughs a minute, and he was just like. Master joke writer.
Machine gun.
Yeah. And, he would do the voices, and it was a little, it got stale at some point, but he would also be like, why is he still doing these voices in the voice? And he's good. I mean, he was the first guy I liked, but I also used to listen to just like Mitch Hedberg and Chappelle and the John Mulaney one. I mean, that came later, but I remember someone was like, this guy really reminds me of you with the early, when he was doing like the Law and Order bit era. So, like, he's still very young at that time. Yeah, those were the ones that I really, like, gravitated to. I was never, like, a stand-up, like, junkie fan. I'm still not. People are like, did you watch this special? Did you watch this special? I don't really get off on watching specials. I think stand-up is a very, like, personal thing, too. Like, it should be consumed live.
Yeah.
So, like, it's like, if I'm watching a special and I'm laughing at it alone, that's, like, a real, this is actually very funny
Tip of the
to
hat,
me.
yeah.
There's also like a level of if I'm watching with other people, I'll probably laugh more. Also, you had asked like what was my intro to Bill Hicks. My stepbrother, who we would watch stand up together, he was always a big Bill Hicks guy and like the truth teller and like he's doing it like no one else is doing it. But this was actually probably the first time I've ever watched extended Bill Hicks. But I did really enjoy it. He is very funny. And like 1991, my big takeaway was like, wow, all these things that he's saying in 1991 are still very pertinent right now. Talking about like the Bush war. When he's like, we just had a war. I was like, what war was that? And then he's talking about, how like we were fighting Iraq, but Iraq's army basically couldn't do anything. And it's like, they lost 150,000 people. The U.S. lost 79. And it's like, so 80 guys would have got this done? And just one guy comes home and he's like, I did it.
Yeah.
And that kind of reminded me, did you see Shane Gillis's special, the Netflix special, when he talks about like SEAL Team 6 and like them just fucking up the guy and like they're like jerking him off or something. And he's like, oh, Allah, like something like, Oh, I loved the thing in the Bill Hicks special when he's talking about they had the Scud missiles, which I didn't even know what that was.
Yeah.
I've heard of that. I've heard of it in a Wu-Tang song, heat-sinking Scud missile, a Method Man line. Like, it couldn't aim. He's like, a military should be able to aim. That should be one of the caveats of war. And he's like, the guy, like, they shoot like a Buick. The bomb is actually a Buick, and the guy is like, Allah! And then he lands in the ocean. He's like, Allah! Glug, glug, glug. Allah! Allah! I liked it a lot. I thought it was really funny.
We've got a little bit of a formula, and this is going to be a challenge for Old Al on today's show.
It's not the traditional movie breakdown.
But the reality is, time is time. And when people say, hey, I'm going to devote 90 minutes of my evening to something, and I'm going to lean on Real Talk to give me a goddamn grade that I can take to the bank. Yeah. We're going to do it. So the way we're going to do it, we're going to break it down into categories like we normally do. When we talk about plot, for the sake of this, and you got to put your
material.
You got to put your comedian hat on, but we're talking about the set list.
Yeah.
You know,
well, it didn't like have like a through line, I wouldn't say. It was kind of just one thing to the next. And then the big topics were, you know, we talked about war for a while and the American people.
Yeah.
The South. Smoking, you know, health, things like that.
Gun control.
Right, gun control. Right, they were shooting shotguns at the aliens.
Yes, aliens.
He talks about aliens. Yes. The government. I liked it. I mean, it was solid. It wasn't like it wasn't one man show-y where it is like, this is my thesis statement and this is what the material's all got to come back to it. But I thought it was like a nice, you know, you get a real sense of who he is and the things that he cares about. As we were talking about, you know, who you would be if he was still alive today, I think of like Marin, not so much, just because he's like, you know, the writing on the wall type guy, and this is my take on it.
But there's a handful of comics that you can point to, and because I kept thinking the same thing, because Bill Hicks passed away in 1994. I believe he was 32.
Crazy how young he was, because he looks. My gosh. Do you know Robert Klein? Do you know who Robert Klein is?
I love Robert Klein.
He like looks like a young Robert Klein here, and I was like, oh, he must be like 38 at this time, but no, he was like 29.
Yeah.
But also people are just aged much faster.
Yeah, different back then. Especially, I was going to say the smoking.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, he makes a great joke. People love to go to the beach. They have beautiful tan skin and white teeth.
Right.
I have white skin and tan teeth.
That was a great joke. That was really funny.
It
People love the beach. It's where dirt meets water. What's so amazing about this? Yeah, he's great, man. Yeah.
He just comes across as like over it, and like he has it figured out.
Yeah.
And so I feel like this set was really authentic. I feel like it was consistent. It flowed really well. He has a lot of energy, but is very understated. Like even early on, and it's just circumstantial, but apparently this was his first time going to Canada. Which is weird, because when you listen to the audio version, he definitely was like, oh, it's great to be back. So take this note with a grain of salt. Yeah. But his brother said this, okay? Apparently he thought it was going to be very, very cold. He's literally in a black turtleneck with a blade, and he is just pouring sweat.
Yeah, he is dripping sweat.
The entire time, and that did distract me. I mean, finally at one point you see him wipe his head, but it was like, damn, like he is drenched. So kind of interesting back in 1991 when you couldn't just open your phone and see what the weather was going to be like. But yeah, overall, like I said, I thought it was a really good set.
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. You mentioned it. It's definitely kind of timeless in terms of themes and his perspectives. It's kind of scary how timeless it is.
Yeah, it's more of a comment on America than, you know, and people than it is like, you know, are in the fucking military industrial complex.
And even North American culture. You know, I have a lot of friends who live in Toronto, and they often remind me of how similar, you know, even down to their gun problems. And, you know, it's interesting that he's doing Just for Laughs in Toronto, but a lot of the issues that exist here in America do exist in Canada as well, or at least certain sectors of Canada. Yeah, it's unfortunate how much of this is
even down to
even down to, again, the current sort of political situation and the, you know, again, he does such a great job of making fun of the discrepancy in the size. I mean, he flat out says at one point, yeah, there are people worried that as if like Iraq were going to ever be a threat to America.
Right.
What do we need to worry about there? You know, and so it's kind of mind-blowing to hear a comedian in 1991 just being so straightforward about it and just kind of coming right out and saying like, nope, this is how it is. Which I have to believe at the time probably wasn't as common. You know, you had confident comics. Again, Sam Kinison is somebody who, they had a falling out pretty early on, but he did kind of come come up under Kinnison, and you kind of see a little bit of that in him. But Kinnison's not necessarily like political. He's not getting into that sort of stuff, whereas Hicks is just so confident, but what he's presenting is so counterculture.
It probably at that time was a much more, because everything today is like the government, and everybody has a megaphone. But like, at that time it was probably pretty subversive to talk so bluntly about America is not so wonderful.
But it didn't faze the crowd, which is also interesting.
Probably a bit more enlightened in Toronto at a comedy festival. Maybe. What was he saying about Pat Robertson? I can't remember. What was his big thing about like religion?
God, don't call me out on that.
No, that's okay. You've watched 100 movies in 2 months.
Jesus, yeah.
So I'll get. Oh, remember when they blew up the Death Star? That was awesome. I think that was a different movie. I don't know if Bill Hicks blew up the Death Star on stage.
No, when Bill Hicks and Anthony Hopkins survived that bear attack.
Yeah, I know. Could you believe it?
My favorite part of it.
I loved it. This is a change of course. But what did Bill Hicks die of? Cancer? Was it smoking?
I just assumed it was lung cancer.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like, and you mentioned Kinnison not being super political, but I was thinking about, have you ever seen Back to School with Rodney Dangerfield?
Oh God.
He goes to college to be close to his son who's in college.
Yes.
He's like, and I never graduated from college. This will be fun.
Yes.
And he has a great time. And there's a scene with Kinnison. He plays a history professor who is very critical of the Vietnam War. And he's like, why were we in Vietnam? And a girl is like, because, she gives the political correct answer, and he goes, that might be what they want you to think, and that might be what blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, we were over there because blah, 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 doing Sam Kinison. And I think about that a lot. I think about early stand-ups in movies before mass media or social media. You'd basically have a stand-up who was given an opportunity to do their act in a movie to broaden their... So Rodney was like, Sam, come, have a cameo, be in this one scene, and give us what we would get from you if we were to go see you live on stage. And he gets to do that in that one scene. And I think a lot about Chris Tucker in Rush Hour, who does the Michael Jackson impression, which was a big part of his stand-up, is also in Rush Hour. And to me, it was just like, this is how a stand-up grows their audience and like lets the world know like what they do in their act. This is like your viral TikTok or reel or something like that.
It's interesting you bring up Rodney Dangerfield because he did a show. I don't remember the name of the show, but it was a special. And it was one of Hicks's first breaks where he...
Right, it was like the young faces of comedy.
Yeah, and apparently it came down to one of two comedians, and the other comedian was Tim Allen.
Oh.
And Rodney picked Bill Hicks specifically because he wanted someone who was edgier, and he felt like Tim Allen was a little too mainstream.
Well, I feel like Tim Allen probably already was more successful because he was doing it in like the 70s.
It's tough to say because oddly enough, I think they may have been of somewhat similar ages.
Okay.
And so I don't know exactly when this would have happened, but it seemed like they were both like kind of on the come up, and Tim hadn't been like discovered yet. But
well, there's another movie. Again, another tangent here. Sorry. Have you seen The Nice Guys with Russell Crowe?
Of course, love
one of my favorite comedies.
Such a great movie. We're gonna get into that on the show. Yeah.
Russell Crowe's character lives in an apartment above the Comedy Store. It takes place in LA in the late 70s or early 80s, and I believe Tim Allen not Tim Allen, but someone playing Tim Allen is on stage, kind of like. It's not focused on him, but you hear a comedian on stage, and either the marquee says Tim Allen or somebody says, ladies and gentlemen, Tim Allen. And he does a pretty, lame, punny joke about how, like, you put corn into a car, it makes oil. You put corn into me, I make gas, like that. And that's why I'm saying, like, I think Tim Allen might have already been kind of like established.
Right. Definitely.
I mean, like cocaine dealing Tim Allen.
I was going to say.
Mugshot Tim Allen.
Well, that's what I think is so funny. Yeah.
God, Tim Allen.
Nobody's, got the street cred like Tim Allen.
Yeah,
if you want
well, Home Improvement made him like
of course.
Squeaky clean.
But that's a perfect example, too, of how comedians used to use these other avenues to promote their act, or vice versa, where Tim Allen built an entire act to sell a TV show.
Right.
And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked like a charm.
Do you like Home Improvement?
So my dun dun dun.
Al, did you have cable in the jungle? TBS.
So to peel back the curtain, my dad was actually a handyman.
Oh, I'm sure he loved it.
So yeah, there was, and he
Middle
looked.
America.
My dad looked almost exactly like Al Borland.
Yeah.
Like it was a joke. Like it was a joke that it was like it was just sort of like a religious thing. Like it was just always on. Like but I don't
biggest show.
But I don't remember any of us, like we all loved other shows more. Like it wasn't like no one was asking to put Home Improvement on, but it was on.
Yeah.
And like you watched.
Yeah.
You know, it was like
right. No, I mean, I liked the rerun. I liked watching the reruns. Like when it had
but I bring that up because I do go back and watch a lot of old sitcoms. I can't remember. I don't think I've seen Home Improvement in probably 20 years.
It's
So I just
whatever.
don't remember it. I probably should go back because maybe I'd get a kick out of it. But
actually, they have Dave Chappelle and Jim Brewer on. Is like they're in like a small. They like come on Tool Time to like be the like opening act or like do a little thing.
yeah.
But they're both very, very young. It's way before. It's before like Half Baked even, or like even before Robin Hood Men in Tights.
Right.
So like around that time.
Yeah.
And yeah. Anyway, sorry, it was a
No,
it's
it's fine.
Tangents.
Let me do this, Matt. Let me get a score out of you.
Oh, yeah,
1
yeah.
to 10 for the plot, aka
Set
the
list,
set
I'd say like a 7. You know, it wasn't all like knitted together, which is fine. It doesn't need to be, but like, you know, you almost come to expect that.
Yeah, no, it's not as polished as like a big special would be. And I think because of the fact that it is...
Well, at that time, stand-up too was just much more of a novelty.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
It wasn't like you were so oversaturated with it that you were like, I need my stand-up to have like a message. It's more like, I'm a joke teller. I'm going to tell you jokes and I'm going to tell it like it is.
And then it's over.
Yeah.
And I feel like there was an era, like, and I'm so fucking glad it's over, where it was like, you got to end on a callback joke. Where it was like every special, it's just, oh, there's a callback joke and you know it's over. Now, again, shows aren't so much like that, but specials still definitely kind of build to a close.
It is like the
But back then,
staple.
yeah, but this is definitely before the special was
Yeah,
its
yeah,
own
yeah,
thing. And even
yeah.
Hicks would go on to do a couple more. In fact, his next one had a lot more production value and so
More money.
yeah, exactly. And whereas this special is just recorded at a comedy festival. So I think that's very fair. Now, next up, we usually talk about characters and performances. Obviously, only one character here in terms of performance. I mean, we spent a lot of time already kind of talking about, you know, the authenticity of Hicks. Here's the one question I'll give you before I get a grade out of you. As a comedian, especially, I mean, you've been doing comedy for over 10 years now here in New York, and you recently watched this. Was there anything in particular that stood out to you about his performance?
Yeah.
Anything that you'd steal?
Well, I was kind of surprised that there was like act outs and like acting to it, performance to it. I wasn't expecting that just from what I've heard of him. I thought he would be much more like, gather around, kids. I'm going to tell you why Grandpa is bad or something like that.
Yeah, he's a lot more theatrical.
Yeah. I was, and when usually we talk about sound design, I was like impressed by some of the sound effects that he was using, and like I was like, oh, I was not expecting this to be, and because I kind of assumed that he would be curmudgeonly, he does seem pretty like carefree, like light, and like I bet in real life he's a pretty nice, likable guy, and like pretty like not like the world is a vampire, you know, like more, you know, not Billy Corrigan, more, you know, just a guy that you might want to hang out with and shoot the shit with.
Yeah, no, again, he balances...
Seems like a nice guy.
Yeah, and he balances the heavy themes with these really light performances. Like you said, you did earlier where, you know, they're shooting the Buick and it's in the car.
Yeah.
Like, there are these really colorful, funny scenarios he creates. And yeah, when you said the sound effects, there are 2 or 3 times
Yeah, he does
where
a
he's
lot
like,
of like...
yeah, he does like crickets at one point, and it
that
sounds
was
like
great.
incredible. And there's definitely... It felt like almost like an old vaudevillian comic where you have to be able to like juggle, you have to be able to, and now you can go do comedy.
Yes.
And so it feels like he is this old school performer where it's like, yep, he's like a George Carlin. He's gonna go out there, he's gonna tell you these jokes that are hard to digest, but he's gonna do a little juggling, or he's gonna do a little dance.
There's a lot of levity to it. He seems like he's like into like silliness and like things for that sake, which those are some of my favorite things about, is when a stand-up isn't taking themselves so seriously, when they can be silly. Like for me, I love both in my own act, and it's something that like really perks my ears up when I see another comic do it. Like very specific examples, and like if those examples can be very silly, like the bomb is like a guy in a Buick shooting across the thing. You know, that kind of stuff to me is like, oh, he's not just like a fucking asshole, or
right.
like and even his whole vibe of like, it's less like, I'm going to tell you what's wrong with the world, and more like, as long as you're not mean to me, I'm not going to be mean to you. Like, every time he's like, and here's my problem with this, it's usually because they are giving him shit. Like, people that give him shit about being a smoker, he's like, you know, I do me, you do you, laissez-faire. But if you're going to come over and tell me what's wrong with that, then I'm going to come back at you. But until that, I'm happy to be like, la la la, you know, very just light. And that's something I really appreciated as well in it.
You know, I think that's a great way of saying it, because he ends up sort of representing a voice that doesn't really have a voice at that time, which is, again, especially because this is the early 90s, so the big anti-smoking campaigns are just in full effect, you know, and I can imagine, as somebody who, not me, but in the role of Bill Hicks, you know, who at one point in his life could probably get on an airplane and smoke a cigarette, and now if he's on a sidewalk smoking, strangers are coming up to him and kind of mocking him. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of people that feel like pissed off about that, and so, but no, you're right. Like, he's not picking fights. He's almost like making fun of the bully.
Yeah.
And I think that's really endearing.
It's important. Two other just quick things about his performance. One, he goes to smoke the cigarette, and he drops it, but he catches it. And he says something to, like, no question, or, like, without a doubt. I can't remember exactly what he said, but it was, like, that wasn't rehearsed. But it was and the whole thing is very rehearsed, to the point where, and I'm an amateur, you know, as an amateur comedian, I watch a lot of comedians who are not doing their 30-minute for TV special every time. So there's so much, like, if something didn't hit, commenting on it or making it. And I was kind of like watching this, and I was like, you know, he's not killing at any point. There are jokes that aren't getting huge laughs but are funny, but he's not being like, well, that wasn't what I was expecting, or that wasn't just keeps, it's so polished, but it's also very professional in not getting thrown off by
He's
anything.
unfazed. He's totally
completely unfazed. Yeah. And that was something I witness a lot now, doing stand-up 30 years later. It is, to me, like, that's a real skill to not be. But maybe people didn't do that at that time. Maybe we didn't already know so much about the comedian, and, like, everybody at your work that is funny didn't go to an open mic and give it a try.
Sure.
Like, it was a much more mystique. So it is like, pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Like, let's keep the magic trick alive no matter what.
Yeah, and I think... And I agree with you. I think that is the case of the time. But even if it wasn't, I'd like to think that it's helpful to his character, because he is such a, like, again, he's relentless. He's this unrelenting sort of opinion. So that idea of, like, even if I mess up, I don't blink, it really assists him. So it's like, even though I agree, like, stylistically, I think it was just more common at the time, watching it in 2025, I think it really helps age the piece, because it just aids the character, where you're like, But I agree with you in terms of the crowd, because when I listened to the audio version, that was the biggest difference. The crowd's a lot hotter.
They were, like, cooking it. Or they loved it?
No, I think in the album, the version that I listened to on Spotify, because I watched both. I watched the special and I listened to the Spotify version. It's definitely a hotter crowd on the Spotify version. I think they're in a club, because you just hear clanking and stuff.
And it's like a kill
so
box.
It's a smaller
this is like
room.
a theater,
Yeah, but yeah, if you listen to the audio version, you might be going, "What are you talking about, Matt? He killed."
in the live in Montreal one, there are just moments where they're not. And then at the end, he's like, "This has been a great week, and you guys, this was the best performance of it." And I was kind of like, "It was a great special, but they were not falling over themselves with everything you said." But that also comes, you know, when you tape a special and it's in your home and you're like, all my friends are there, they're pretty much instructed to laugh their heads off at everything. Yeah. Because, you know, the same way a laugh track tells you where to laugh, like, you're a little bit, like, goaded by, you're coaxed into laughing more if the audience is just eating it up.
I think if there's a takeaway from this, it's, if you're going to film your special, although there might be a lot of cost efficiencies by piggybacking off a festival, probably not going to get the best crowd. Yeah. Because you're just going to get a depleted crowd, depending on where you're at. I mean, who knows if you're doing it, but yeah, I think that's...
Yeah, they've maybe been watching comedy all week. They didn't necessarily buy tickets to see Bill Hicks as much as they were like, I came here to see comedy. Not everyone is going to think everything is funny. You know, it's riskier. But no, it was great. And his relentlessness, his unflappability is what is part of, performance-wise, something I really liked.
Well, then let me ask you, 1 out of 10.
I'd give it a 9.
Giving it a 9. Locking it in.
And the only whatever would be because he's not destroying there are jokes that I was a little bit tuned out on. Like, as I'm saying now, I'm like, what did he say there again? You know, I was doing other things while watching, so I wasn't 100% like, I can't look away, but it still was a really tight and professional performance.
I think that is completely accurate.
Hey.
Now, the next two categories we're going to blitz through.
Yeah.
Because they're not hard.
They're not
so,
here, yeah.
I have a little game we're going to play before we get into it. That's right. So this game, my friend, it's called What Would Bill Do? What we're going to do is you, Mr. Matt Summerstein, have to decide in the year of our Lord, if Bill Hicks was still with us, would he, yes or no, have done some of the following things? There's 4 different things I'm going to present to you, and you're going to say yes or no.
Before we do it,
please.
I don't know Bill Hicks that well, so I can't say for certain.
Well, unfortunately for you, you are representing his estate in this game.
These are admissible in a court of law,
Yes.
and a man's life is at stake. So answer as well as you can.
I'm laughing and coughing, and I don't have a mute button to hit this time. Oh, excuse me. All right, are you ready, Mr. Summerstein, for What Would Bill Do round 1?
Let's do it.
Okay, what would Bill do round 1? Would Bill Hicks in 2025 appear in a superhero film? Yes or no?
No.
All right.
But do you think he would have been in movies in the 90s and 2000s?
Look, Matt, when you start your own movie
You can-
podcast,
okay.
you can have your own What Would Bill Hicks Do segment.
Al,
okay?
I'm so sorry.
Jesus
Christ.
All right.
Remind me never to book this guy again.
Yeah, wow. Margie, did you get that?
Margie?
What would Bill do? I do think he would appear at some point. I could definitely see him popping up in a Kevin Smith movie or just something. I mean, look.
Oh, yeah, it's true. I mean, Carlin.
I was going to say Carlin. I mean, Richard Pryor was in a Superman movie.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
so let's... I mean, if you watch Sam Raimi's original Spider-Man, you'll see Jim Norton packing into a UPS box.
He stinks and I don't like him. I love that moment, dude. That's one of my favorite parts. He must be some kind of fag or something. That's someone else. That's actually, I think, the kid from Goodfellas who plays young Joe Pesci, who plays the cop that says
wow, you're right.
But
wow, what a deep dive. All right.
wait, can I do one other aside
Sure.
about comedians in superhero movies?
Please.
So in have you ever seen Captain America Winter Soldier? Which is the second Captain America?
Yes, episode 20.
You're kidding, really?
Yeah, I'm
Why?
not kidding. Because episode 20, all of our 10s, so episode 10 is Foundations, episode 20 is sequels, episode 30 is trilogies, episode 4, it's so on. So yeah, we're doing famous sequels.
To me, that movie does kind of like reinvigorate the Marvel series at that time. It comes after the buzz of Iron Man. Thor is kind of whatever. Iron Man 2 is not good with Mickey Rourke. This one was like looked at as a who gives a shit. But I went and saw it and it was like pretty fucking good.
Most people, I think, had that reaction.
It's really good. It also has a great Easter egg. Nick Fury pseudo dies at the end and they're at his funeral and on the headstone is Ezekiel 17:12, his passage from
that's right, from Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember being like, oh my God. So either in that one or in Captain America Civil War, the great late Gary Shandling plays
Hydra leader.
Right. An undercover leader of Hydra, which is like pseudo the Nazis. Very Jewish Gary Shandling whispers in someone's ear, Hail Hydra, which is basically Hail Hitler. And I just remember cracking up, like, how did they get Gary Shandling to basically be a Nazi sympathizer in this movie?
Yeah.
Also, R.I.P. Robert Redford, who takes up that mantle a little bit later.
Yes, that's right. That's right. The mantle of Marvel Hitler. Yeah.
Marvel Hitlers.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
Yeah, I think Shandling must have been pals with Favreau. That's the only way I can put that together. Because I remember when he was in Iron Man 2, I was like, huh?
Captain America 2.
But he's in a couple. He's in a couple.
Oh, I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. He pops up in like just in a few, and yeah, I was always very excited and then kind of just puzzled by why Gary Shandling was in a Marvel movie. Anyway,
sorry. Yes.
Thank
you
you
for allowing me that aside.
No problem. No problem. That's why we have editors.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. What would Bill do round 2?
Yes.
Would Bill Hicks Become a spokesperson / do voiceover work for an insurance company / commercial campaign.
Like a la Gilbert Godfrey?
Gilbert Godfrey, Affleck. Look, we don't necessarily have to compare him to comedians, but yeah, that would be a good example.
I would say no, but I also just don't know that a company would have reached out to Bill Hicks to do that.
It's all about the Bill Hicks audience.
But maybe.
Know? Hey, who knows? Maybe next year Rogan will be doing like a GM video.
Most likely, yes. Yeah. Probably.
Well, speaking of that, round 3, what would Bill do? Would Bill Hicks have built the comedy mothership 20 years ago, considering he loved Austin, Texas, and Aliens?
Ooh. I'm going to say yes.
All right.
I think, yes, he would have created a little subculture of comedy for a different area that isn't oversaturated with comedy.
I have clearly never been or performed at the Comedy Mothership, but I have heard that there is a very large picture of Bill Hicks in the green room.
Oh, okay.
So there you go. All right, well, the final round of what would Bill do, round 4. Would Bill Hicks have performed at the Riyadh Comedy Festival?
I'm going to say no.
All right. For the sake of the integrity of the world, we're not going to create that scenario.
On Bill Hicks performing in Riyadh for $1.5 million.
Moving on, visual storytelling and use of sound. We're going to blitz through these.
No visual storytelling. There was maybe like 2 or 3 camera angles.
And I thought they worked. There's one cutaway that's like a very low angle, just sort of in the off wing. Yeah, and it's nice to cut away, but this is very straightforward. His next special, way more cinematic, like literally comes out with a wall of fire behind him. I think there's
like it's a Charlie Kirk funeral or something. Maybe take that out. If I ever want to be booked in Austin. God, I hate all that shit.
Oh, no, this is going to be a good episode. Hey, we're doing a Bill Hicks fucking review. So yeah, I mean, he has better, bigger pyro. Like again, in his next show, he walks out and there's a lot of pyro and ballyhoo going off. This is very low key. Like we said, it's the Toronto Comedy Festival, so I can't imagine there was anything done to the stage.
It felt just like shot for TV.
Yeah.
Or like early HBO kind of special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Having said all that, 1 out of 10, what do you want to give visual storytelling?
6.
I think that is very...
It's fine.
Very fair.
There wasn't much there.
Same with use of sound. Let's we don't have to spend a ton of time on this. It was mixed well.
Yeah.
I think the most interesting point is, the music. It's kind of a note, if you're going to come out to if you're going to come out at a festival to music and you want that in your festival.
Make sure you know that you can use it.
Make sure you can have...
Also, credit for not pumping in laughs.
Yeah.
For not doing like extra laugh track.
No, that's actually very true. Yeah, no, that's a good point. Because it does not seem sweetened or enhanced at all. Unless no one laughed. In
which case,
unless he bombed, it now just sounds normal.
Actually, it was so much integrity that they lessened the laughs. Because he couldn't get a word in. You couldn't hear him over it.
That's right. Well, all right. Use of sound then, Mr. Summerstein. What do you want to give it?
I'll go 6 again.
Locking in the 6. If you get...
Well, I know that like each one of these scores has a heavy weight, so I don't want to.
You better be.
I don't want to hurt its. Right. I don't want to hurt its end grade, its final grade.
Well, and the only other thing, you've only got 1 left now, and that's themes, which I would imagine this is going to be pretty heavy or pretty high score. But there's 2 other docs. There's 2 other stand-up concert docs that I'm doing on today's episode. So one of them will get the highest. One of them will get the highest grade, which means you might be upsetting a lot of Bill Hicks fans if it ends up coming. So on today's episode, we are also reviewing Patrice O'Neal's The Elephant in the Room.
Amazing special.
As well as Sarah Silverman's Jesus is Magic.
Not recent, but like...
It's like, I think 2007.
Okay. I don't think I've seen it. But thematically, I liked what he was talking about. Truth-tellery. Let's give him a 10. Why not?
Hey, look. I don't think anyone's going to be upset with you, all right? And maybe Dennis Leary. Thank you.
Okay. I don't want to go on a rant here, but there's another bad tangent. Did you ever watch like Family Guy? Were you ever big on Family Guy?
First 3 seasons.
Yeah, the early stuff.
Yeah.
It's probably in the first 3 seasons. It's a cold open. Peter's watching Dennis Leary, and Dennis Leary goes, I don't want to go on a rant here, but the socioeconomic structure of the dichotomous ultimate, it says a million giant words, and it ends with Peter going, what the hell does rant mean? It's a really good fucking
That's fucking awesome. Yeah, no. Well, I don't think anyone will be upset with you for giving him a 10, except Dennis Leary. Dennis Leary might be upset
like,
with you.
whoa,
because-
hey, I'm hosting a conservative talk show.
Well, Dennis Leary, he was accused of basically just ripping off his entire Bill Hicks's entire act. In fact,
I can see that.
Bill Hicks' brother tells a funny story where Bill Hicks picks up his brother one day and he gets in the car and he goes, I want to show you something. And he puts in a cassette tape and he starts playing it, and it's No Cure for Cancer. And his brother goes, what is this? And Bill Hicks goes, you tell me. And his brother goes, it sounds like a shitty version of you.
Yeah.
And Bill Hicks ejects the tape and throws it out the window and goes, that's exactly what I thought.
Yeah, that's what it is, dude.
So
I love that his brother is, in the doc, because he says in his Wikipedia page, he said that he would basically like give bits to his brother and be like, what do you think? And his brother's like, you're great at this. Like he looked at him as like the prophet.
Yeah.
Or the arbiter of if this was good enough or if I should do this.
Yeah, that sounding board.
Yeah.
Well,
Sorry, more asides. There was a show on Fox News, very, very briefly. I think it only did one episode and then they scrubbed
they're
it.
one of our sponsors, by the way.
Oh,
Fox
shit.
News. Yeah.
Well,
so
I love our overlords.
I was gonna say,
and
tread
stick around for
lightly.
Greg Gutfeld to tell us that Nazis is our N-word. God, I hate everyone. I hate Jesse Water. Oh, God. Anyway, sorry. There was a show, I learned about it in like a communications class about TV and comedy TV, and it was... Fox basically scrubbed it, but they were trying to do their own SNL, and it was hosted by Dennis Leary and Ann Coulter, and had Rush Limbaugh. It was called the 24-Hour News Hour, or something like that. And it was just so, and the theme of the class was why, like, the powerful can't be satirists, because they have the power. Like,
Right.
satire is about making fun about those in power, and the Republicans have all the power, so it's not funny to...
Yeah, at that point, you're
riff
just
on
rubbing it in.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they've come around because they have Gutfeld, and meanness is funny now, but anyway, that was just one aside, just that Dennis Leary did this show on Fox News. And then this is just kind of something we were talking about before, but because I was asking what Bill Hicks died of. Sam Kinison was killed by a drunk driver. I was listening to a Sam Kinison special just randomly one day, and it opens up with him doing a long bit about how we should be allowed to drunk drive if we want to.
Oh my God.
And then I'm listening to it, and then I go and check his Wikipedia page, and I read about how a drunk kid driving a truck hit him on the highway, and he died. And basically, this might have been, I think it was him. He was like in the hospital dying, and he was like, oh, I'm just getting big. I don't want to die. Don't do this to me now. Which is very sad. But it was just ironic that his whole big bit on this special was like, if we want to drunk drive, this is America. We should be able to. If I want to get loaded up and drive my car, there's nowhere to fucking park it anyway, and then of course he gets killed.
He gets killed
by
by
his
his
words.
Wow, I did not know that, but that is really fascinating because Bill Hicks, obviously a lot of his bit is sort
It's
of
like, don't come in my face. If I'm gonna die, we're all gonna die.
We're all
Liberals
gonna
die
die.
too,
And
or
he
non-smokers die too.
Yeah, which again, this is where I struggled with Bill because when you're gonna have a character who's just always banging his chest and sort of has to be right to be funny, you're occasionally gonna be wrong, and it's like. Even he kind of uses this example about a jogger dying while he was jogging,
Right?
As if that like 0.0000001% chance of that happening is somehow a norm compared to the majority of people who died
from smoking.
But he did die from pancreatic cancer. It looks like not
Well, that
lung
could be
cancer.
related. I mean,
it could be related.
It could be related.
At least
Cigarettes
causes
kill
that.
every part of your body.
It's very true. It's very true.
I say that as someone who just picked up smoking cigarettes. So
Well, and I said that as someone who I believe earlier in this podcast, I said lung cancer. So
Yeah.
I was just clarifying
I got you.
for myself that it was pancreatic cancer. But all of that being said, Matt Summerstein, we have scores to announce. All of your grades are locked in for Bill Hicks's Relentless. You gave the plot a 7, the character and performance a 9, the visual storytelling a 6, the use of sound a 6, and the themes a 10. That is a 76. Now, what that means on our grading
hard to
score
get an A.
it sure is. Now, compared to movies,
yeah.
this would make this like a B.
Okay.
Now, compared to other comedy specials, this is where I'm going to give you a little leeway here. What would you give it as a comedy special?
I'd give it an A-.
Okay, so we're going to lock in the A- as a comedy special, the 76 as a film. That's how I'm going to make the distinction here. On my end, to your 7, I gave the plot an 8, To your 9, I gave the character and the performance a 9. Visual storytelling to your 6, I gave it a 7. Use of sound to your 6, I gave it a 7.
Oh.
And theme, I gave it a 10 to your 10. So I had an 82 to your 76. I just locked it in as an A. I think as a movie, it's an A. I think as a stand-up special, it's an A. I have not seen all of Bill Hicks' comedy work in his other specials, so maybe there's an A+ in there. But for me, I'm really glad I checked this out. I wonder if I had watched this earlier in my life, how maybe it would have influenced me and what direction it would have pushed me in, because he is such a polarizing figure. I feel like as a young guy, I probably would have been sucked in a bit. But regardless, I would like to tell people where they can get sucked in by your work. You are on the Instagram. You are on the YouTube.
Yeah, find me.
Go find him.
Please.
Please find him.
I need
You're on the
you.
TikTok.
I'm on
You've
TikTok.
got a great
yeah,
TikTok.
I TikTok.
Is it all the same handle? Because it's usually just Matt Summerstein.
Yeah,
it's not
my
hard
name
to
will
find.
come up. Yeah, Matt Summerstein.
Yeah, obviously your stuff is linked in the description of this episode, as it always is.
Thank you.
And Matt, I'm always very happy when you come back. Next time you come back, if you will, we'll watch an actual movie.
Yeah, I'm
It'll
down.
be a little bit easier.
Let's do it.
We'll dissect
I
something.
thought we were going to talk 2 movies, so... I mean, I thought we were
true.
also talking Empire Strikes Back, so... I may have rented that from the library and watched it last night.
I may have
but
bait and switch.
no problem whatsoever. I'd love to come back to the jungle. Thank you for having me out. It's always a pleasure.
Well, until next time, don't get pancreatic cancer.
That's a good goal. Is there a sign-off, or is there a...
The
Keep it
signature
real.
sign-off is me just struggling to end every conversation. The signature of the show is, if you're going to talk movies, make sure it's real talk.
Right.
But I don't have, like, I always try to, like, I write my opens, and I will joke, oh, thanks for wearing the turtleneck. I never think to write a closer.
That's okay.
So I'm just kind of an awkward lion in the close.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Hey, if you're going to talk movies, be a lion.
Platinum Plastic isn't just a proud sponsor of Real Talk, they're also the home for all our new designs and merchandise. Follow Platinum Plastic on Redbubble to see all our A+ gear. That's Platinum Plastic on Redbubble for all your Real Talk merch.
Today's Real Talk is dedicated to both stand-up comedy and 3 voices who are completely unique to themselves. In 2025, Sarah Silverman was known to most on the comedy scene, but Jesus is Magic was a clear thesis statement regarding the young comedian's style. Silverman doesn't make a dark joke for shock value. She revels in the uncomfortable until you're laughing at the unexpected pop of wit, often in the form of a pun that would have you rolling your eyes if it weren't so savage. Like many great comedians, Sarah can slip into a character who is constructed completely of satirical skin, which gives her the ability to introduce the absurd while maintaining a blissful sincerity. The special takes advantage of its format by continuously cutting away to short vignettes that allow the experience to reach new levels of ridiculousness, but is it too much? Although much of the humor is juvenile, Silverman was only 35 at the time Jesus' Magic was produced, which was the first of 5 comedy specials she'd release as of 2026. This special might not be for everyone, but I genuinely believe everyone that watches will at some point, even if it's reluctantly, laugh out loud. Because this is a returning appearance, will happily fulfill Miss Tyson's Fuji water, cheese and sausage platter order as outlined in her writer. Please welcome back to the jungle, friend of the show, Jennifer Tyson. Jen, can I steal you for a minute?
Thanks for having me. I'm glad to be back, especially with this particular feature. This is one of my faves.
The last time you were here, we chatted Barbie, maybe a hair of a crossover theme here and there that we might touch into.
She did mention Barbie briefly in this special. She did, and I thought of that. I thought, wow, we do have a crossover here.
Well, hey, we're always trying to connect the dots and thread the needles. Any excuse for me to try to link a previous episode to this, but regardless, like I mentioned, you're back. And when I knew I wanted to do a stand-up concert doc episode, I almost immediately thought of Sarah Silverman. And I don't know what it says about our friendship or you. I don't know if you'll take this as a compliment or not, but when I thought of Sarah Silverman, I immediately thought, oh, I want to talk about this with Jen. So I'm glad.
I love it.
I know you to be a fan of Sarah Silverman, so it wasn't like a totally out of left field.
Yeah, well, I couldn't say exactly when I started to really admire her comedy, but it was probably about the time of the special, honestly. She also had the the series of the same name. But I'd seen some of her stuff around, and she was definitely popular to a certain extent well before that. And then, I only found out later that she was on SNL briefly. So I never really picked up on her there. But I don't know if she's just felt like she's been in the zeitgeist for a long time. But I know it was around the time of the special that I really was like, wow, this woman is so phenomenal. And quite frankly, I was thankful also that other people had said that to me at the time. They were like, "Oh yeah, I think it's look at you and I think of Sarah Silverman, or you kind of remind me of her." And I always loved that secretly. I really did. Because here's the thing, I'm not a big fan of potty humor. Like that's
Sure.
not really my thing. So that's one thing I will start out of the gate saying. I'm not a fan of that part of Sarah Silverman. I just don't find it funny. I can admire some of the wit behind it because as juvenile as it might seem, I think some of her more blue humor in that way is does have a higher level to it, as much as it may not seem to. But ultimately, I think she's fascinating, and I just adore her humor.
Again, the style of humor you're talking about, I mean, there's always been a level of that that's existed, but I do think that sort of turn of the century, I almost call it like a Comedy Central Presents style of young, like again, absurdist sort of humor. And you see all sorts of different ways that manifests and goes from a Jim Gaffigan, who's kind of absurd in the way he's doing self-commentary, to a Mitch Hedberg, who is just sort of absurd in his way of just doing one-liners that were completely out there, or even a Dane Cook of that same generation, who's like really absurd in his kind of over-the-top physical energy that he's bringing to, again, what a lot of people would point to as like pretty juvenile humor. Sarah Silverman kind of fits right in there, and I think that you're totally right in identifying kind of again like the potty humor, but she is using it as a setup to kind of subvert your expectation. And often, not always, certainly not always, and we'll get into that, especially with some of these vignettes. Uh, Usually, it is for the better. It's something for very clever, and the reason she's kind of going blue is to kind of elevate it, but
Right.
she is elevating from a point that she's lowered herself to, so it's kind of like it feels almost like a break even.
I will tell you this. I saw her in person when she did postmortem recently, and it was really interesting to see her evolve and see and hear her stories turn so much more personal and
Sure.
more realistic.
Yeah.
Some of the things that she mentions in the special that we're going to talk about are somewhat personal, but you can tell they're so ridiculous. You're barely scratching the surface. But postmortem was really deep and really revealing and much more vulnerable than I've ever seen her. And I love that too.
As is often the case here, we talk about plot first. But what I want to do, because again, it would be weird to try to, what about the beginning, middle, and end? What is the second act really tell you? I'll just ask sort of as the set list goes, from start to finish. I just want to know, like, how did it work for you? And more specifically, like, when did it really peak for you? Because I think that's a really interesting thing to discuss when we're talking comedy.
I will say that I definitely appreciated a lot more of the actual stand up that she was doing. Her stand up is so incredible and she has such a rhythm to it, as all good comedians do. But I felt like I was taken out of it more and more with each of the skits. And there were some of them that I loved and others that I didn't as much. But I thought, as unique of an idea as it was, it definitely took you out of that that rhythm of the stand up,
Yeah.
only to come back to it. But each skit had its own different vibe, and you kind of had to figure out, well, what exactly is going on in this skit? I feel like if you're a true Sarah Silverman fan, you're going to be like, oh, this is great regardless. Kind of like Kids in the Hall,
Sure.
there's a lot of misses with Kids in the Hall, but if you love it, you're going to take it and run with it regardless. You just kind of chalk it up. And that's how I was looking at this as well. Yeah, I don't know that there's any part specifically during her stand up that got me the most because all of her jokes are just set up, knock it down with the shock value as well as just the turn. Like you think you're ready for a certain punchline, and then she comes out with something completely opposite of what you're expecting, and that is what I think is so funny.
I totally agree. In terms of the stand-up being kind of the stronger points, at least consistently, there are, like you said, there are some sketches that are better than others, but they're very inconsistent in that sometimes you just totally break away and you're in a different world. Sometimes there's a sketch happening literally kind of like right off stage in the wings, and it's very odd because sometimes it's clear what the audience is in on and what the audience isn't. I can appreciate a stand-up special understanding that, hey, this can be edited. This is going to be presented on potentially television, if not, again, HBO or various streaming platforms at the time. The reality is, it's like you could tell that it's trying to do a little bit more than a stand-up special could, but at the end of the day, at least to me, it unfortunately comes across as this really clever comedian kind of using some bells and whistles to almost like fill out the hour. And there's just certain gags or gimmicks. It just felt like it was like, yeah, why not? Let's just do this. That'll kill some time. That'll kind of get us to this next beat. So a little bit of a criticism there, although I did overall kind of, like I said, appreciate the attempt. This does kind of bookend with like a little bit of a narrative. The narrative going in is that her sister and friend Brian Posehn are kind of bragging about these things going on in their life. And so she seemingly just makes up this show that she has to go do, which is the excuse for the comedy special. And then at the end, we kind of come back and meet them in the dressing room.
Yeah, it was very interesting. I at first, because I took some time to think about this before we got on, and at first I thought, I don't know about this, and wound up also thinking, I don't know about this, because I don't know that she needed to fill any time. This special was a full hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So I feel like if she had dropped all of these sketches and maybe kept them for the series of the same name instead. And in fact, maybe that was the reason behind it. Maybe it was like, hey, we can kind of pitch this special. This is kind of what we're doing in the show, is have these somewhat non sequitur skits that reminded me very much of what we saw in the special. But as far as the setup goes and her trying to find it, essentially a way to feel maybe less than her peers talking about what they're doing, and they're like, what are you up to? And she's like, well, I've got a special. I'm going to do a special. Oh, it's actually tonight. And oh yeah, you can't come. Actually, it's sold out. I thought that was clever in that so many of us can relate to that feeling. I mean, she was very juvenile in how she handled it. But that feeling of, I got to make something up because I feel like a total loser right now. Who do I find as the star? What am I going to do? Oh, I'm the star. I can be the star. I thought that was clever. And then at the end, just the fact that you see her and her alter ego of being somebody who's completely self-righteous, believes themselves to be completely empathetic, not racist at all, definitely working on the side of good, only to really reveal this completely self-absorbed ass. Then even at the end, her friends, her sister / friend, come to see her backstage. Oh, you did so great. That was so wonderful. And she just treats them like absolute dirt. Like, get out of here. I want to be by myself. Like, very condescending. And then how she did the same to Bob Odenkirk, her supposed agent in one of the skits. I loved seeing him come through.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, the whole premise was bonkers, but she's bonkers in a way. And I love that about her. I love this really wild out there humor that to its core really does get a message out.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I think like all good satire, I mean, it's as ridiculous as it is, it almost finds like very poignant moments sort of in that absurdity. And I want to get a score out of you for the said plot, but I do want to piggyback off of, again, the setup of, oh, she just made this up and she has to go do it. It is a very, again, funny sort of satirical approach to the stand-up special. I mean, in theory, like, especially your first stand-up special, it's sort of like the very best of your career at that point. So the idea of her setup being, oh, I just threw this shit together the very last minute, is just, again, a very kind of self-aware, funny, humble kind of approach / to it. And anyway, so I genuinely appreciated that just as much as, yeah, I thought it was fun at the end. Plot, what did you give it? 1 out of 10, Jen?
Ooh, plot. I'm going to go with
How many cute little Nazis out of 10 did you give it?
But I know. Oh God, her Nazi jokes. How many cute little Nazis? I'm gonna go with 8. In large part because of originality. You see so many stand-up specials where, it's the basic stand-up and that's fine. And you might see them backstage and they're kind of cutting up with somebody, or there might be a little sketch before they go out. And that's great. That's unique. I love that. But I think part of what makes Sarah Silverman so impactful and so the way she resonates with people, I think, is because she puts it all out there. She's not afraid to do something completely different and weird, and I love that about her. So 8 for sure, maybe a couple points off just because a couple cute Nazis off because I don't know that everybody would have gotten it, but at the same time, I mean, that's a +2. So I'm just going to go with 8. We'll go there.
I'm here for it. The characters and performances are up next, and as we mentioned, there's quite a few characters in this. But generally, I'll just say out of the gate, the Bob Odenkirk cameo, and not maybe a cameo, but just the character that he played was really kind of the peak in terms of the sketches. She does sort of a music video at the end where she's kind of in this 60s get up, and it's all built around the N-word, and that was probably other kind of standout sketch for me. But for the majority of them, they did kind of pull me out and sort of, I don't know, feel kind of unnecessary, which we already touched on.
Let's start with. I'll just start with Bob Odenkirk, and then I'll go straight into the stagehand. So Bob Odenkirk, one of my faves, love that man so much, and was very happy to see him as her agent. And it made sense because they both like this absurdist humor. They both also, I mean, this is so right up Bob Odenkirk's alley where you start with one premise and one sketch that you think you're watching, and then all of a sudden it moves directly into something completely opposite from Mr. Show with Bob and David. So that was really cool. I was like, yes, I totally see why they're possibly friends. I don't know. Yeah, he's the perfect guy for this sketch where he plays her agent and she's berating him as well. And he's just this goofball trying to manage her. Now, going into the stagehand, it didn't get any laughs from me or the audience. And in that way, I thought, okay, the audience is not necessarily supposed to know that this is happening. I do believe it was a tear. She's sad about something that she's telling a joke about. She flicks off this tear, and then it goes right into the stagehand's hand, and he pleasures himself as they're looking at each other. And then she just continues on with the joke. And I thought, why is this in here? It's not funny to me, and it's not something the audience seems to have seen. And I still don't know why it's in there, but I will say it made me think about how, and I don't know if this was a nod to this, but it made me think about how even just the comments, because I did watch it on YouTube, it's free on YouTube, everybody. The comments there that are recent, that are old, have the same through line that almost every online comment has about Sarah Silverman. And that is from men talking about how hot she is and how they want to F her and all of this gross stuff about Sarah Silverman. So no matter how funny she is, this is how I took it. No matter how funny she is, there's always going to be a guy off to the side who he's not laughing. The stagehand's not laughing, just wants to focus on her appearance and is taken by that only.
No, I think
or in addition, but that seems to be the prevailing comment about her online is by men wanting to have some sort of sexual release with her. And I couldn't help but wonder, I would love to ask her, why did you include that? Because it didn't seem funny at all.
Well, that's really interesting you say that, because I think it's a really poignant take. I think it's really, really valid. And I mean, obviously I can't confirm if that is what her intention was, but if it was, it honestly makes a lot of sense. I don't want to make this a conversation about Sarah Silverman's looks, because she is so unbelievably funny. And we're talking about characters and performances. And before I get a grade out of you, we kind of already touched on it, but she does very much play a character. Like when she's doing stand-up, she's not really Sarah Silverman. She's playing what I refer to as sort of the blissful bitch. She's this person everybody just wants to say shut up or whatever, but she's able to embody it in a way that we get to laugh at her.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. It's absolutely a character, and I feel like she's the lovable bitch at the same
Oh,
time. She
Homer
doesn't.
Simpson. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And again, having seen her evolve over the years, including her apologizing for some of these really crass jokes that she made that she knows hurt people at this point, which I'm sure was not her intention at all. And she says that as well. But I think I love the character that she is playing because it's just, it's like you said, you're listening and you're like, oh my gosh, there's no way I could laugh at that. But then you give it a second and she gives that 1-2 punch at the end and you can't help yourself from laughing. And I feel like when you look at the audience members in this special, you see a lot of them seem almost aghast at themselves for laughing. Like, oh my gosh, like embarrassed that they're laughing. When she's talking about, oh, I'm not a materialistic girl, well, I should, let me just admit there is this very specific gem stone that I love. And I'm going to sound like a total jerk by even admitting this. And then she goes down this rabbit hole of where this gem comes from. And I won't get into it because I don't want to ruin the joke for anybody. But also, I feel like I cannot repeat a lot of what she said. I just morally can't, even though I know she's trying to get a point across that ultimately these things are bad. Blood diamonds, etc., are terrible, while coming out looking like one of the worst people on the planet by saying certain things. It's all that sarcasm. So I love that about her. I love that she did have the understudy, this young girl, come out and do some of the jokes in her absence. She completely bombed, but it made me think, you know what? Obviously the bombing was a setup. It was a part of the whole special.
Yeah.
But I thought she was chosen because she's another cute, young, white girl. But even she doesn't have the delivery that Sarah Silverman has. So she can say these jokes rote. It's not going to go anywhere. It's going to fall flat. Only Sarah Silverman, with this very bizarre character, can get away with it.
Well, I got to ask you, 1 out of 10, what do you give characters and performances before we move on to visual storytelling?
Uh, I'll go with another 8. I'll go with another 8. Most of that being Sarah's character in this. And then the others being those that came in. I think they're great too. So yeah, I'm going to stick with an 8.
What?
8 cute Nazis.
8 cute Nazis all in a row. Visual storytelling. This is where, for me, there's 2 points I want to make, and then again, I'll throw it over to you. Some of the sketches are a bit elevated. Again, there's this sort of music video that they do, which felt like a certain level that I would expect. Other things really did feel kind of cheap and really thrown together last minute, which I don't know. To me, it was a little distracting. And in particular, even the venue itself, I mentioned earlier the sort of Comedy Central presents class of comedian or sort of generation of comedian. And that's what the stage sort of gave off to me. It felt like this should be a free 21-minute like comedy special, the look of it. And so I don't know. I just wish there was a little bit more of a production value. I wish that maybe the stage in particular would have kind of said something more distinct about her, or just be nothing at all, just be a curtain and it's just about her. But between the sort of, I don't know, what felt like kind of incomplete production design compared with some of the cheaper sketch elements, I actually thought the visual storytelling brought this special down a level. So for me, I was a little bummed out by the visual storytelling, but I am curious what you think about it.
That's so interesting because I didn't get that vibe at all. Here's what I was thinking. First of all, as far as the stage went and what might have been able to, illuminate her behind, or that sounded terrible, illuminate her behind.
Big
Whatever might have been
spotlight on the
behind her,
caboose.
whatever might have illuminated her from behind, whatever could have been there, I thought wasn't there, mainly because she had a band behind her, which I thought
Yeah.
was so clever. And I know we'll talk about music more in a second, but I thought, oh, well, yeah, you're not going to have all these other elements because you have the physical people that are creating real music for her to sing to for her to play guitar with. And that was a totally unexpected element that I loved. And when it came to the sketches, you're right. The one number where she's dressed in her 60s outfit, I thought that was really well done. The others were felt a little bit more sketchy. And I didn't mind that though, because I thought, well, that's kind of what she does. I knew that she was doing Jesus is Magic, the show. And I just thought, well, this kind of fits in with that. I wasn't expecting anything to be really nicely done. And so I was really honestly kind of surprised that the sketch she did in her 60s outfit was so well done.
And that was an exception. I want to make it clear
Yeah.
that to me stood out as being well done. And even when you mentioned the band, I want to make it clear to people who haven't seen it. You really you don't see the band until they play. So I
Right.
would say, like, if while I'm watching the special I see that there's a band back there or something, that would have been visually interesting to me. But what we have is just sort of a curtain with a very large empty sort of picture frame, and then these sort of, I don't even know how you would describe it, but these little like glittery kind of pops that would go off. And
Yeah.
again, it was just kind of distracting enough. I kept looking at it. I do agree with you that when we get to the end and the stage is sort of fully kind of revealed and the band is there and she's playing, that I was like, oh, okay, I fully kind of understand the space now. But like I said, usually my head's not ever kind of going in any of those directions when I'm watching a
Yeah.
stand-up comedy special. So that's sort of why I point that out.
But I wasn't too surprised by it being there because the premise is she's making this up as she goes.
Totally.
And so it's like, oh, she's literally doing the special right now. So she's not necessarily going to have a set or anything like that. So it didn't throw me too much. But also, her presence is so huge to me, even when she's talking small, that I thought, well, that's all we need. All we need is Sarah. Keep in mind, too, when I first saw this, it was 20 years ago. And I was like, yeah, I just want to see the comedian. That's all I really care about. But this
Totally.
was definitely a different vibe. And I see your points.
And that's really what I'm looking at it from, is like 20 years later, like you compared it to like, oh, there's this sketch comedy element of this larger show. And that's where I think 20 years later, when I watch other stand-up comedy specials, I think they just age better if they're a little more isolated. Whereas this does
Yeah.
feel like it's a piece of a slightly larger puzzle. And in the comedy special, for those who don't know, like, it doesn't advertise the show at all. Like, you wouldn't know if you just watch this show that there's more to it. But there are, yeah, like these appearances and characters and other things popping up. Whereas in context, you understand, oh, this would have been released in conjunction with a show being premiered. Oh, yeah, that makes total sense. And so that's why I just say, like, as it ages, it got a little bit of a knockback for me from the visual storytelling.
Okay. Well, I will just say before I give the grade,
Yeah.
she looked incredible in that 60s dress and her hair. Loved it. Incredible. She could carry that look, Lewk, throughout her lifetime, as far as I'm concerned. I loved it. So, but visually, overall, I would give it probably, especially after talking to you and fleshing it out, probably a 6.
The 6 is locked in for visual storytelling, which brings us to use of sound. And we've kind of danced around it a little bit, pun intended, that there's a lot of like original music in this. I mean, she has at least 3 or 4 acts of original music. And by the way, I might as well mention it now because I didn't bring it up earlier. I did look. You can listen to Jesus' Magic on Spotify, runtime of 42 minutes. So when you pull the sketches out, it sounds like that's about as long as of an experience as you're going to get. So I'm sure some of the music is left in there, but yeah, I would say the biggest musical number is towards the end. I'm looking right now. It's about actually there's about 2/3 of the way through, but it's this sort of 60s style. How would you say, sort of hopscotching through various racial epithets and things?
100%. She starts off talking about Jewish people driving German cars.
Yes.
And I man, her sketch about, or her jokes about that before she even goes into the sketch are so interesting and enlightening. It was not something I'd ever thought about prior to her sketch, but also I'm not Jewish. I'm an atheist, so I'm not thinking about, I just didn't even think about Jews possibly wanting to drive German-made cars. I never thought about it. And when she laid it out, I was like, that is fascinating, so interesting. And then each verse scene that came after the one talking about that topic goes into basically analogies. So she's like, this is kind of interesting. Is it kind of like this with gay people? Is it kind of like this with Black people? But she's using epithets that I will not use. But she's saying it, she's singing to the camera while referencing these groups of people as she's passing by one that maybe is working on the set, that would fit this
Description.
stereotype
Yeah.
or whatever. And just seeing their reactions to her, like, did she really just say that to me? She's just continuing on with this song. And it's just, again, what you said about her courage to say these things in a way that's going to shock you. And maybe you think to yourself, is she racist? Does she really believe what she's saying? Then you think there's just no way. Of course she's not. That's not where this is coming from. And she's asking genuine questions in this song. And it's a catchy song. May I just say that? It's
Yes.
stuck in my head all day. I'm not singing it out loud. That's for damn sure. But I'm not mad about it. Like, it's a really
It's an earworm.
catchy tune.
Yeah.
And brings forth a lot of questions that we should all maybe be wondering ourselves.
Yeah, no, look, I mean, the song at its core is definitely about hypocrisy. This idea of I can't say it, but you guys say it to each other, from a cultural standpoint of going, why are you supporting this thing that oppressed you? Why are you using this as a vehicle? When a queer person is using the F word, when a person of color is using the N word, you are furthering a level of oppression in the same way that if a Jewish person is buying, which I don't agree with this, the idea of if you buy a German automobile, that's some sort of an endorsement of Nazi war crimes from the Second World War. I mean, you have to take at some point, time into account. But I do see as a statement, again, that is extremely thought-provoking. It is a very catchy song, but unfortunately is packaged in a way that you cannot repeat it. And you would not share it with people. You would not send this to your mom or your friends, probably, save for maybe one or two. Maybe you'd show it to some people if they came over and hung out. But I think there's a lesson to be learned. And again, even something that's incredibly clever has to be delivered with care, or else it's going to be totally overlooked unless a lion and his friend talk about it 20 years later on a podcast.
I will say, I think she brings up the question of that, but I personally don't know that she reached that same conclusion that you did, which is, oh, you are furthering the same sort of oppression. I don't think that she came to that. She's asking these questions, and it even ends with two Black men looking at her, and their final take is they're not pleased with her saying this, and they're expressing that in their faces. They never crack the smile like, oh, you got us, you're cute, okay. No, she's left with, ooh, they are not happy with this at all. And I can completely understand why they wouldn't be. She's asking these questions, but I don't know that she came to the same conclusion. I don't have the same conclusion myself.
That's not a conclusion, by the way, that I'm coming to. I'm saying I
Yeah.
think that's the suggestion that she's making. I think by juxtaposing, because again, the whole song is about, well, if this is like this, isn't this like this? And what I'm saying,
Yeah.
the connection between these specific groups and what they're referring to each other as, and her inability to say it, which is what the end is. The end is people being very upset with her for using that word, and again, rightfully so. But that's what I thought the connection was she was trying to make with the car stuff.
I can see your point for sure. So, the last musical number, I don't want to give too much away for people who haven't seen it, but that kind of, to me, I wasn't a fan of how of how that wound up being the final number, I thought, okay, great, you're bringing in the whole band. I can see how this is kind of an elevated live song, and she, comes out and she's singing along to it. But it just got a little too juvenile for me, and I was just like, I don't know about this. I don't know about ending on this. But that's really the kind of humor she was so known for back then. But I just thought, she's better than this humor. Like, I get it, but I would love for her to have ended on something a little bit more clever.
Hey,
So I'm a little torn on the musical numbers.
I struggled with it because although, again, they weren't really my cup of tea, I appreciated what she was doing. I mean, we have to look, it would be kind of difficult not to mention like an Adam Sandler if we're having this
Mm,
conversation. Here's somebody who puts out a comedy album that is extremely juvenile, very music centric, launches this guy into a whole nother stratosphere between
yeah.
SNL and his movies. So I can understand why in this space, again, a young Jewish comedian sees that formula and goes, well, let me lean more into the musical side of this and kind of work in these musical numbers. But it isn't super consistent. Like it kind of only comes in sort of in the back half of the special. And when you're breaking in all these other sketches and stuff, I don't know, it doesn't feel as like consistently musically oriented. And I totally agree with you as a finale, very flat for me. But I'm curious, at 1 out of 10, what would you give the use of sound?
I'd probably go back to that 6 again. It's just I didn't think it was needed. I think it was better suited for her TV series than a condensed special that I think should highlight her very strongest points. And to me, for stand-up special, that was the stand-up. So, yeah.
Yeah, it felt like at the end more of a showcase piece than like a comedy show. And if that
Right.
makes sense, or at least 20
That
years later,
does.
it looks like, oh yeah, this was something put together to be like, look what Sarah can do, as opposed to
Yeah.
here's what Sarah has to say, so much. Um, but that said, the 6 is locked in. That brings us to themes. We've definitely sort of mentioned that, the themes are all over the map. Some of them very juvenile, some of them very sincere. I mean, she makes a joke very early on about sexual assault that I was like, whoa. Like, I mean, just
Yeah.
blows your mind how she just sort of weaves in and out of these things. I noted family, Judaism, being a victim of various forms of assault as
Yeah.
themes. I don't know. I'm curious, Jen. What were some themes that stood out to you? And of course, Jesus being magic would be a theme.
Yeah,
My
Jesus
God.
being magic. Let's not shy away from that one.
Yeah.
Well, I loved um the ultimately the theme, I think, I don't even know if you call it a theme, but over the years, having heard her talk in interviews and on her podcast and in more recent stand up, I know that some of her themes were actually real from the start. The punchlines were fantastical. But even her bedwetting joke, where she talks about bedwetting well into her teens, that's a real thing. And that really did traumatize her. It was really upsetting
Sure.
for her to go to sleepaway camp while she had this problem. And so, knowing now, especially looking back on it, seeing some of the things she says and knowing that there is a kernel of real truth there and real vulnerability, even in that ridiculous character that she's putting on, that was interesting to me. So, but watching it for the first time, as far as themes go, I keep coming back to, yeah, she's talking about racism. She's talking about things that a lot of people would shy away from. And I just really appreciate the fact that she put a lot of it out there, even though I do agree with you. There are certain things, and she said herself, that she wouldn't have said now. And there were certain jokes in there that I thought, oh, I don't know if that one does seem to serve a broader purpose, maybe in the mix of everything, but that specific joke didn't seem to have as much behind it to warrant it for anything other than shock value. So, yeah, as far as the themes go, courageous, yes, a little naive, yes. There's the time frame too. I mean, you got to think about The Office. half of what The Office put out back then was just not anything that we could look at today and necessarily have a new audience feel good about. And I feel like that's kind of how it is with her, the themes that she put out back then in this stand-up special. A lot of people are going to have an issue with it.
The comedy is very much of the time. It's not like she was on her own doing and saying these things
Right.
in this sort of shock value. Um, yeah, and I think any performer would grow. And again, certain performers that we've noted before, I mentioned a guy like Jerry Seinfeld. He's a guy who's always sort of played it on the clean side, and he's always noted that not as a safety mechanism, but because he thinks it's harder to play it clean. And I don't know, I think there's really something to that. And when you look at someone like Sarah Silverman, and she, again, as you mentioned, she's even gone back and said, well, yeah, I wouldn't do and say some of these things now. I don't know. I think there's something to that, where the more restraint a young artist has, I feel like oftentimes the more punch and power their work has. And this is, again, a special with a lot of ideas, a lot of things going on, but it just, some things hit, some things miss wildly. And it is kind of a little inconsistent in that way. Regardless, 1 out of 10, what would you give the themes?
I'm gonna go with a 9, because there are themes a lot of people might shy away from. Certain people are not meant to even talk about those things. They just don't have it in them, or care as much necessarily. Maybe want to incorporate it into their point of view that they are literally laying out as their career. I applaud her for stepping in landmines that she may not have even realized, or stepping in them knowing that they're going to be landmines and saying, I'm going to take the brunt of this because I think it's funny, number one, and number two, it gets a broader point out there. And she's an activist in her own right. Like, she really cares about women's healthcare, via abortion. She puts her money where her mouth is. She stands up for those beliefs. And I really admire that about her. She wasn't just using these themes as shock value. I feel like she did want to have a broader commentary on them.
I'm picking up what you're putting down, which is, I think time has shown that, yeah, she wasn't just some flash in the pan shock comic who was just trying to get attention. She is somebody who cares. I have a score in, Jen, and there's going to be a really interesting reveal. So I'll tease with that. But for Jesus' Magic, you gave the plot an 8. You gave the characters and performances an 8. You gave the visual storytelling a 6. You also gave the use of sound a 6, and you gave the themes a 9, which gave us a total score of 74. Technically high B, right on the cusp of a B plus. What would you, on the Real Talk rubric, that is. So what would you, I know you for a spell were a professional educator, so that's why I wanted to, make sure you understood. These are jungle rules.
The rubric.
What would you like to give it? A B plus, an A plus? I mean, give it anything you like. It's your.
I'll give it a solid B.
The B is in. I will reveal my score now. To your 8, I gave the plot an 8. To your 8, I gave the characters and performances an 8. To your 6, I gave the visual storytelling a 7.5. I also gave the use of sound a 7.5 to your 6. And then I gave the themes a 6 to your 9, which means we have the same score of 74. I will remind listeners, this happened the last time you were on the show. We each gave Barbie the exact same score, and now we have given Jesus' Magic the same score. So, I mean, if this doesn't prove that Jesus is in fact magic, I don't know what else will, because, yeah, we both gave it a 74. I gave it a B plus to your B. That's the only difference there, but yeah, I mean, look, Real Talk math clearly works, because every time Jen Tyson comes on the show, she proves that we may be off here and there, but at the end of the day,
we're going to come together.
We know how to grade a darn film, if you don't
We
mind.
know how to grade it, and we know how to come together. And I'll tell you, we graded it better than Rotten Tomatoes did.
What did Rotten Tomatoes give, if you don't mind me?
I'd have to look it up again, but I think it was like 6.5. And then maybe there's another score right next to it. I'm not sure what that was for. It was like 7.5 or something.
6.5 out of 10 on IMDb as well, with 5.8 thousand voters. So there's one for you. Yeah, I mean, look, cinema very subjective, or at least people's interpretation of it is. You could definitely say the same thing about comedy. I really enjoy Sarah Silverman. I really enjoyed this special, and I laughed a lot, even though there were some moments where I thought, boy, I hope if I'm ever in a nursing home, no one ever comes and sings to me about my impending death.
Thought of that too. I was like, oh, I hope they weren't really hearing her lyrics because they
That's
were
the whole thing I thought. I was just like, this is fucking brutal. And it's brutal in a way that's like, God, those old people better be really funny and really in on this joke, or heavily medicated. But
heavily medicated, maybe both. She's like a strong cigar, and some people love that. And I don't love cigars, but I love her.
I'm certainly interested now in checking out her 2025 special, which you got to see her live. What is incredible. Again, things that I didn't even realize when I booked you. Oh yeah, Jen's seen Sarah Silverman live. So
Yes, and some guy in the audience yelled out for her to show her tits. So
there you
this
go.
stuff is still following her around.
Maybe it was the stagehand.
You know, it could have been. It could have been. It felt very real. The guy was an idiot behind me for a while. So I don't know.
Oh.
But she handled it like a champ. She's such a pro. I highly recommend seeing her in person if you get a chance.
I hope someday that I can take a selfie with Sarah Silverman. I don't know how she feels about lions. Maybe she's allergic to cats. We'll see. Hopefully not. But
Hopefully not. She's cool. She's super cool. There's no way. She's got to be a cat person.
she's got to be. She hosted the stupid Patrick show on TBS. So how could she?
I gotta check that out on YouTube if it's on.
2023, yeah, I think it was 2023 show. I can't say that I checked out too much of it, but from what I saw, she was funny. The animals, not as funny as Al, I'll put it that way. But anyway, Jen, as always, I really appreciate you coming. I'd love to have you come back to the jungle. We talked Barbie, we talked Jesus' Magic. I don't know what kind of a formula we've created here, and what has to naturally come next. What baby Sarah Silverman and Barbie would have, but
Oh my God,
I don't know,
it's
Frances Ha?
be...
I don't know.
Oh, I did see that a long time ago. That's a possibility. We're gonna get the next one. It's gonna be awesome, whatever it is. And it can be completely out of left field again. I love it.
I'm always happy when you're on the show. We'll always make sure your rider is intact. So please,
Yeah, no crap water, Fiji water only, please.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right?
And we have a
you.
crate you can take home with you, so you don't have to dehydrate on the way back. Regardless, thank you so much for coming in, Jen. Until next time, Jesus loves you.
Jesus loves you too.
Before we jump into the next review, I just wanted to thank you for listening this far, and I ask that you leave a like if you're enjoying the show. And let us know what movies you'd like to hear us score on Real Talk. We're almost certainly on your favorite social media platform, so search Al the Movie Lion wherever you scroll.
Today, the name Patrice O'Neal holds a lot of weight in the world of comedy, largely due to the success of his contemporaries who find ways to continue to remember and immortalize the comedian. Bill Burr may host an annual comedy benefit in Patrice's honor, but it's absolutely O'Neal's perspective that makes his takes feel timeless, even if the language has aged like Cracker Jack toys. When I was in high school, I was obsessed with stand-up comedy, and that included writing, performing, and watching it. So one of my favorite stops to see new comics was Comedy Central's Tough Crowd with Colin Quinn, which featured a regular lineup of comedians to support the host, and perhaps none were as memorable as Patrice O'Neal. He could go toe-to-toe with anyone on any topic and never hesitate because he seemed to absolutely believe his arguments, which is no surprise as Patrice's razor-sharp wit was always accompanied by some form of constant logic. I would be shocked if anyone watches Elephant in the Room and doesn't strongly disagree with at least one take, but that's the brilliance of O'Neal's entire routine, as he's exploring the uncomfortable without a soft touch, but instead used his masterful ability to remind the audience of their common ground, which is always a safe place to laugh. I was sort of shocked at how many issues Patrice addressed that hit home with me personally, which no doubt elevated the experience for me. But on Real Talk, we need two to tango, or at the very least to review a movie. Today we welcome Sid the Cinema Sloth back to the stage and won't press him for new material, but I will ask that he lay off the difference between sloths and lion stuff, as this chat is a celebration of what makes us laugh, not what makes us different. Put your hands and paws together for Sid, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. Anybody? Who we got in the audience today? Anybody from Chicago? Okay.
I already asked for birthdays. It's a
Yeah.
tough crowd out there. Yeah, look, I've been asking for comments for close to 20 some episodes now and haven't received barely any.
I think a lot of people are gonna agree with what I had to say, and that's, first of all, I was confused because I thought this was gonna be an Irish comic, and it wasn't. It took me a few minutes to get past that because I was ready for some good Irish humor.
Well, that's big of you to not let it affect you, and you were able to still watch it. Yeah, that says a lot about you,
Yeah.
Sid.
Thank you.
You're a good sloth.
So how does it work on something like this?
Well, you'll see. I'm gonna guide us
Okay.
along, my friend, like a brilliant comedian traversing his set list. The audience won't even feel the transitions. Maybe not as much on this because I make it pretty clear I gotta get a score out of you, so you'll know the transitions are coming. But yeah, I mean, before we get into the nitty gritty, I do want to know when did you get introduced to Patrice O'Neal? Like, what was the time frame, and also maybe you don't have to go on too much, but name a couple of your favorite comedians just so we kind of set the table for your sense of humor.
Patrice O'Neal. When I think about him, I think about around the same time as like Greg Giraldo and that era. So probably via Comedy Central is where I would have seen him first. I know him a lot from the American Office. He wasn't in it a lot, but he definitely had, a few scenes.
Also, Arrested Development. He was in one episode in the first season. He was a flamer, as he was referred to as.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Which is a pyromaniac for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Jason Bateman asked Patrice O'Neal. He goes, "Did you burn down the storage locker?" Patrice O'Neal, without missing a beat, goes, "Most definitely." It's so funny.
Huge fan of Chappelle.
Is that Dave Chappelle?
Dave Chappelle, yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Bob Chappelle. Dave Chappelle. Jim Gaffigan. I like Patton Oswalt. Those are three. Louis Black was funny.
As is the case, we usually start out talking about plot. What I want to do here is I just want to talk about the set list. I want to talk about the various kind of topics he hits on, how he's able to transition between them, and sort of grade it based on that.
Yeah, I mean, I remember right off the bat, one of the jokes was about how long you look for a person. That's how you can tell the class of white person they are. That joke really cracks me up, and especially because it's so sadly true. There's definitely multiple scenes that that really stood out. Harassment Day is genius.
So funny.
So
Such a
funny.
funny premise.
Yeah. Slave Family was pretty funny.
To touch on Harassment Day, Patrice suggests the idea that instead of completely outlawing sexual harassment, it's allowed for one day of the year, the Tuesday before Thanksgiving specifically, and the concept being that it's very much almost like Valentine's Day, that you very politely and professionally are able to approach a coworker and ask them for something. I believe he requests some fellatio and a broom closet, if I'm not mistaken. But even in his scenario shows how, if the person doesn't want to do it, it's okay to decline. But yeah, Harassment Day, very, very good. Very solid bit there. Yeah.
He's so funny with his eyes, man. I mean, it's just a stare. I mean, he doesn't even do much, but he just gets it across so well. It always blows my mind how people can control that with their eyes, or just how we all can tell what's happening with people's eyes, even though it's the most subtlest of things. He nails it, man. It just makes it so funny. He's so good at that.
He's so well paced.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, minimal movement, minimal effort, maximum results.
And as you said before, he's saying it with a confidence, like he's not going to say it and walk away going, "Oh shit, I was wrong," or maybe I shouldn't have said that. Like he knows exactly what he thinks, and he's gonna He's gonna just put it out there, and
At one point, you mentioned earlier the bit about people going missing, and he talks about if he ever goes away on a boat, he's gonna get a white baby and put it on a
yeah.
keychain. And it's so funny the way he just, like, continues to go with it. Um, Later on, God, I think it's in the animal lover bit where he's sort of portraying the way the media portrays, like black people and their again affection towards animals, which he
Oh
makes it
yeah,
very clear that
yeah.
he loves animals, but again, the way he plays it out, it's so funny because he's not afraid to just fully step on the gas and go right through the wall. There really doesn't ever, and it's an hour and 17-minute set. I mean, it's a long, as specials go. I mean, it's on the longer side, especially because the open is just him walking through a curtain. I mean, there's no pomp and circumstance. Sarah Silverman, her special has a pretty lengthy sketch and song and everything that opens it. Whereas this, it just within 30 seconds we're on stage with Patrice and he's making jokes, and he goes for an hour and 17 minutes. The transitions are seamless. Like even great comedians will stop, walk over, take a drink of water, come back, start a new bit.
Yeah.
He drinks water, takes wipes of his head, but it's during the set. Like there's never a time where it's obvious when he's transitioned from one bit to the next.
And they always do. A lot of comedians will do that thing where they'll just say something kind of random. Yeah, speaking of that,
Right.
he's like, well, no, we weren't. Yeah, he doesn't have any of those overlap things. His segues are pretty smooth, pretty seamless.
What do you give it 1 out of 10? The set list, the plot.
Do I go? I'm gonna say, I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
And 8.5 is in. Now we're moving on to characters and performances. Obviously, the main character is Patrice. He is, doing his act, but as I mentioned earlier, at various points, he's playing different characters, different versions. Well, I mean, he talks
None of them Irish.
not a one. Not a
Not
one.
one. And
Well, he does refer to his girlfriend a lot, so maybe his girlfriend's Irish. We don't know.
Maybe.
But I would say is probably the most consistent character other than himself is his girlfriend. I mean, I would say probably 50% of his material is based around them and their relationship and whatnot. So that was the only real kind of notable character. What I do want to sort of springboard this section with talking about his performance, not a lot of comedy specials do you see, especially from that era, the comedian coming out and doing crowd work to start off the show. And it was kind of interesting to me because he then, and this pertains back to how seamless things were, he consistently used the audience and some of these people and characters that he created and connected with to weave through his bits. And I thought it was really, really clever to sort of use his first maybe 5 minutes of the set to just plant these seeds. This is the person I'm going to come to here. This is who I'm going to look to for the young person. I'm going to, here's a couple over here I can go to about that. And that really elevated right out of the gate this for me, because I appreciated the fact that there was some crowd work, but then the way it played out, I was like, oh, that was not just crowd work for crowd work's sake. He was setting little mines that
Sure.
blow up throughout the rest.
I mean, and also, I mean, like when the joke hinges on the audience saying an answer, like obviously you could have somebody out there to make sure that they say what you need them to say, but you could also tell that, like, when he's talking about the people going missing and he asked what the white woman's name was, like people knew it
Immediately. No, there's a woman in one of the first two
that
rows.
is so funny. And just him doing her, imitating her. Oh my god.
But that's the setup, because the setup is, does anybody know the name of the lady who, and immediately people are yelling out, and then he goes, and what was the name of the, like, I don't remember, it was Brazilian or what he names it?
Peruvian.
Yeah, he goes, what was the name of the Peruvian girl? And it's silent. He goes, exactly. And it brings down the house. Like, that's the punchline.
Yeah.
And it's
exactly. Yeah. And like you said to the one woman in the audience, he's like, you're laughing because you know it's true.
right.
Yeah.
No, and that's what he does so well is he goes right immediately to the most uncomfortable place, and then he just gets you comfortable there. And it doesn't feel like shock humor at any point because everything is
Oh
so
yeah, no.
rooted in reality, and there's a logic to what he's presenting, even if it's as crazy as harassment day. I love when he's talking about playing football and the anger that there used to be. And you knock the guy out, brag to his mom who's crying about his toes not moving, and then tie his socks around your helmet to scare to the team next week.
Yeah. I mean, just his disgust at everybody, the team standing around holding hands.
Right. Oh, it's really, 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 really amazing just how many things he's able to touch on, and how much he gets around all of these different sort of ideas and material, and again, but seamlessly. I gotta ask you, Sid, in terms of his overall performance as a special goes, and unfortunately, this is the only Patrice O'Neal special we have. What do you give his performance? 1 out of 10.
Well, it would be higher if he did more like, if he climbed on the stool more and did more like humping motions.
Maybe some sound effects.
Yeah, and a lot of like I like when comedians do a lot of like jerk off motions with their hand,
Like they're rolling dice. Yeah.
like they're rolling dice. Yeah, that's always really funny. Anytime they get on the ground and hump the ground, that's really funny.
It doesn't matter what room you're in, that always works.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see. Characters and performance for stand-up special, like you said, with characters, and I'm gonna give it a 7.
Wow, all right, the 7 is in. Sid, you're approaching heckler territory. No, I'm heckling now.
Oh.
Visual storytelling is what we're talking about now. And what I thought was kind of cool about this is there's this like almost jazzy noir, like the stage is just stripped down. It's just these sort of steel support beams with this kind of concrete back wall, and it's just lit with these blues. So it's dark, but it's colorful. And then there are these sort of hanging lights, that you would find in like a pool hall or something. And it's very, very simple, but it does have a really distinct tone. Like I said, that's raw and colorful. You mix that in with his, purple shirt and the leather jacket and the fedora. I don't know. It had a very kind of, again, to me, like a real almost noir tone.
I didn't even think too much about the look of the stage, which I kind of feel like is what they were going for. So, I mean, that's a good thing. I don't think I necessarily got the noir feel, but I definitely got a jazzy, like a jazzy vibe, like a CD. Yeah, I guess that would be noir. I mean, one of my splitting hairs for sure. Yeah.
No, I mean, look, I get what you're saying, though. Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between kind of a lounge club and like a place that's moving, bootleg liquor. So right. I get that maybe there's a little bit of a difference, but to me, that's sort of what it kind of felt like. It literally felt like, oh, by day this is almost like a factory, and then by night it's like a club, and here's this comedian sort of over in the corner just talking about all sorts of blue collar kind of blue material as well. It was funny, and it's interesting too because there is, like I said, the audience is a big part of it, and the team did a great job of these cutaways and finding these specific audience members and continually going back to them.
Yeah, and even if they weren't showing the actual people, they picked great people.
Oh, they picked the right people. Yeah, very well cast. If it was not authentic,
that's so funny.
Patrice O'Neal has a gorgeous first 5 rows. Let me tell you something. These are some of those beautiful people I've ever seen in a comedy special. So Patrice kind of makes a comment about that at one point about how they were very well selected and placed. There's like a 20-year-old girl who's in the front row, and he just goes back to her several times, and some of the stuff he gets into clearly shocks her, and her reaction and sort of watching her and then watching him laugh and react to her reaction is just such a fun, again, thing that obviously could only be contained within this one taping. Shout out to the team if they did end up shooting this over a couple different periods, which I don't know. I have a feeling like Patrice might be like a one take hove, one and done kind of a guy.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, there's so much with the audience that would be hard too. I mean, because they're always showing the same people in the audience, and you can see them from different angles.
yeah, no, absolutely. Visual storytelling. What do you give it 1 out of 10?
Yeah, you know, I'm gonna go for an 8.
The 8. There
Yeah.
you go. I like where we're head. I like where your head's at, Sid. That brings us to use of sound.
But let me say, I'm sorry,
Please.
real quick. Let me just say that, obviously that not that giving an 8 means. I think sometimes in my head when I hear, oh, and he gave it an 8, that must mean that that it has these great visuals or something. Where I don't necessarily feel that's the case. I feel like it's the visual, it's what's needed for it to be a good comedy special.
No, look, I agree. I mean, I feel like the background, the stage, it all feels like an extension of Patrice's outfit. It feels like it just sort of blends in behind him. So
Yeah,
the way
that's
I
good.
grade it
Okay.
is just what do I think they're trying to achieve and how well do I think they achieve that? Not so much of like, well, is there some super memorable visual? Because to me, I think, well, anytime I ever think of Patrice O'Neal, I'm probably going to think of this special. If I'm thinking about comedy specials, I'm probably going to be thinking about Patrice and his performance. So, again, not getting you to adjust your score or anything, but that's sort of where I come from. Even with the use of sound, very similarly, there's very little sound in this. It's just right at the beginning. It's just right at the end. In terms of use of music, I don't know. Like, I would argue that that is really appropriate, and I really appreciate that because there are other comics where, again, Sarah Silverman, who we talked about earlier, she opens with a musical number. So music is a really big part of her special. Music isn't really a part of this special at all, but doesn't really need to be. So I don't necessarily give it a lower score on that note. I just sort of go, okay, well, what was it trying to achieve and what did it do? I got to give props to Patrice because he does different voices and he does make sounds. He kind of yells. It has different yells that he does. And I mean, I don't know. His use of sound and his range is actually pretty dynamic.
I know what you're saying. I mean, I agree that I don't think it really needs to have some sort of other music or sound or anything like that. So for what it needs to do, it accomplishes it. But for what it needs is to really not have much. So like, could I give it as high as a grade as if it had a really great soundtrack that worked well? The other thing I love about him is his laugh for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, he's so funny, man. I mean, just his laugh, but it's just his grunts, his and he's always. So I love that too, man. It's like it's a little half sound he makes, a little a little twitch of the eye, and it's just exactly what it needs or what you want or what. Yeah, I don't know. It's so funny, man. It's just always great when someone's just can just make you laugh with subtleties.
And I love when he makes himself laugh because there's this very organic, like, kind of building and like snowballing where it ends with him just like just kind of like yelling and like laughing.
Yeah.
It's so funny. There's a short list of people I'll forever wish I got to have maybe made laugh once because the people out there who were able to say like I made Patrice O'Neal laugh, what a great chip on their shoulder. So 1 out of 10, Sid, what are you gonna give it?
Hey, I'm gonna have to just I'm gonna stick with an 8.
The 8 is in. That brings us to theme, which means the red light's blinking, and we gotta wrap it up here. I noted a couple themes here: sex and the power associated with it, mortality, discipline, monogamy, and of course social norms. I don't know. Am I crazy? Anything else that I'm missing?
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's the things that we need to talk about that we don't, and yeah, he does touch on multiple ones. So it's like I mean, most comedy specials I guess would be theme oriented, So that's an interesting take on it because I'm thinking theme is probably going to be the highest scorer, um, and uh, and he really hits everything. That was good. He'll touch on everything. Obviously, race, sex, class, hierarchy. He'll take the point of view from the man who feels like a woman has an advantage over a man based on her being a woman. And obviously, there are so many women who feel that men have an advantage over them being, male. But I like that he's not scared to take that point of view because he's not dismissing the other one.
When a comedian has the courage to stand behind an unpopular point of view for no other reason to explore it, poke holes in it, and make fun of it, or allows the other side to maybe hear about the chinks in their armor in an easily digestible way. I feel like there's a blunt sensitivity. When we mentioned earlier that he's talking to the 20-year-old girl in the front row, yes, he's pointed her out to specifically explore an uncomfortable territory, but that's what makes it funny. And the entire time she's laughing, and even though she's embarrassed, he's making fun of himself. He's giving her outs. I mean, like earlier when he's making fun of her boyfriend, I mean, he then turns around and makes fun of himself for being illiterate. I mean, it's like there's always this sort of hand holding and like we're in this together. It doesn't ever seem mean.
And everyone is laughing. I mean, when you're able to say, hey, this guy, objectively guys find this woman more attractive, and you've got every woman cracking up at that. He's saying it the right way.
It's almost like a magician that's dangling the illusion of danger. There's a bit where he's asking one of the people in the front row if he is ever thought about killing his wife, and his response is, "You're gonna get me killed." And he does a couple minutes about, well, that's the wrong response. You should say, "No, I haven't thought about killing my wife. You just admitted to it." And for the next few minutes and for the duration of that bit, he keeps going back to the guy and asking him, okay, so like, tell me, like, how would you do it? Like, you might as well tell me now. You might as well tell me. But he never actually gives him the opportunity to answer it. And I think that that's, again, what's really cool about Patrice. He's taking the audience there. He's bringing us back there. He's dangling this almost carrot of humiliation. Like, you're gonna tell everybody how you're going to kill your wife. But at no point does he ever actually even pause to let the guy answer for a second.
Right. Sure.
Because if the guy starts talking about he's going to kill his wife, that's
Yeah,
how the comedy show all of a sudden went sideways,
Yeah.
All of that to say, Sid, we got to get a score for theme. Patrice O'Neal's Elephant in the Room. What do you give the themes of this comedy special?
Yeah, themes I'm gonna give a 10.
The
When was this recorded?
2011. It was recorded in 2011.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Looks like it was available on DVD in one region known as the United States. So let us know in the comments if you've got Patrice O'Neal's Elephant in the Room on DVD. I think I may have had this on DVD at one point, but I cannot confirm. I have a score. I can confirm a score, though. You gave the plot an 8.5. You gave the characters and performances a 7. You gave the visual storytelling an 8, the use of sound an 8, and the themes a 10, for a total of 83. Technically an A-. What do you want to give it?
I'd give it an A.
A for elephant, perhaps.
Yeah. That's right, A for elephant.
That's right, baby. Don't forget it. Plot. To your 8.5, I gave it a 9. I thought, again, from a performance perspective and in the way he sets everything up and gets through it.
Ridiculous. A 9 over my 8.5? What? I don't even understand where you're coming from.
Sid, it's okay.
Okay. A 9.
They're going to throw you out of here if you keep interrupting, okay?
Okay.
Characters and performances, I gave it a 10. I again, thought his performance was A+, 10 out of 10 for me. Visual storytelling, I gave it a 9 because, again, I just thought, although subtle, it was everything that it should be. Same with the use of sound, I gave it a 9. And same to you. The theme, I gave it a 10 out of 10. So for me, I gave it a 94. I gave it an A plus. I really love this special. I love Patrice O'Neal. I hadn't seen this in a long time, and I howled during this. I love this special. I'll probably watch it again soon, which when I finished Bill Hicks' Relentless, I didn't really think that. When I finished Sarah Silverman's Jesus is Magic, I didn't think that. When I finished this, I was like, I might watch this again today. You know, I really, really, really love Patrice and his style and his humor and the stuff he gets into. So easy A plus for me. All-time favorite comics, Sid, if you had to pick one, who do you go with? Of all the classics, from a Carlin to a Pryor to a Cosby to a Seinfeld.
Oh, Cosby.
He's one of your favorites.
It's gonna probably be it's gonna be Dave Chappelle.
I love it. All right, let us know in the comments who your favorite comedian is.
I'm not gonna get into Riyadh Comedy Festival, but
Hey, you don't want to do my Bill Burr impression, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I had to pick an all-time favorite, I know you didn't ask, but you meant to, and I would say,
before you tell me this, let me ask you this real quick: who's your all-time favorite?
Oh, comedian. It's tough because a few come to mind. I want to say Jerry Seinfeld and Chris Rock. Like, those are the two that it really comes down to. Jerry's Live on Broadway special, I listened to that probably 100 times in high school. Like, I loved that so much. But I also listened to Chris Rock's albums a lot in high school, and I loved them. Yeah, and even his I think it was his last special that he put out, I think last year, maybe even 2 years ago now on Netflix. That was a killer special. I thought it was easily the best special I saw that year. So yeah, I'd probably say like a Chris Rock or a Jerry Seinfeld. And then really shout out to Conan O'Brien, who I know is not a traditional stand-up in any sense, but he certainly was out there doing comedy every night for the better part of 25, 30 years. So I do love me some Conan O'Brien and offense.
I like Conan, definitely. Very funny.
Shout out, if we're talking some more contemporary comics, friend of the show, Billy Wayne Davis, who's been on the show. He's an amazing comedian. Anybody who has not checked out his special is on Hulu. It's also, the whole thing is on YouTube as well. It's called Testify. It's hilarious. And I'm not just saying that because he's a friend. Billy's amazing.
I like anyone in the Rogan sphere. Really.
Big Burt Kreischer guy over here. Yeah.
So funny. He does. You ever see him?
No shirt.
He does the whole bit with no shirt on.
He comes
no
out,
shirt.
Not a once in the whole thing.
Oh, boy.
That's comedy.
Yeah. I don't know how you feel about Tom Segura. Right?
Yeah.
I like Tom Segura.
But he's no longer a stand-up comedian, as I understand.
Oh, is he not? Is he not?
My understanding is he is retired from doing stand-up, and he is now pursuing a full-time acting, directing career. So, but Tom Segura, a very strong comic. Like, I not a big fan of the whole YMH thing, but his act, he's very good, very, very funny comedian.
YMH?
Your Mom's House. It's his whole podcasting network, and
I gotcha.
He started a podcast with a wife. He started a podcast with Burt Kreischer. He took this former Playboy model and gave her a thing, and it's just he's gotten, again, incredibly wealthy, got into really good shape, and is too good for comedy. So yeah.
Yeah, well, once you get into shape, you don't
be funny
anymore. Comedy anymore.
Or if you're someone like Joe Rogan, you're just always in shape and never funny, but still somehow.
Yeah.
Again, shout out. Let us know in the comments how much you love JRE. Jamie, can you look up and actually see? Never mind. Sid, it's always lovely to have you here. You're one of my best friends. You're one of the funniest people I know. There's a small part of me that wishes you would do stand up at some point because you're a very funny, clever guy, and the world.
I don't think anyone's gonna agree with that after hearing this.
Well, hey, at least you got the confidence of a comic, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, Sid. Well, as they say in the business, that's my time.
Break a leg.
Thanks for listening, and here's a look at the scoreboard from our show. Matt Summerstein graded Bill Hicks's Relentless a 76 and an A-, to my 82 and an A, with a 79 A- average. Jen Tyson scored Jesus' Magic a 74 and a B, to my 74 and a B+, with a 74B average. And scoring the highest on today's show is Patrice O'Neal's Elephant in the Room. Sid scored it an 83 and an A to my 94 and an A+, with an 88.5 A average. Please tell me what you graded each special in the comments and who your favorite comic is. A big thank you to Matt Summerstein, who I do all sorts of bonus episodes with, so be sure to subscribe to his channel as well as ours. Thank you to Jen and Sid for returning, and check out the show description for their links. Join us next time on episode 25, Paul Thomas Anderson. Director and friend Keith Kennedy is back to review Hard 8, Jimmy the Toucan soars in to chat Magnolia, and TV producer / DJ Michelle Sickers will make her debut to discuss Boogie Nights. Thanks to the team at Real Digital for producing this episode, and Platinum Plastic, who supplies our show's merchandise on redbubble.com. If you haven't left a like by now, you might as well, and subscribe to the channel, as well as hit the bell icon to be notified when Real Talk drops. Thanks for listening, and if you're gonna talk movies, make sure it's Real Talk.
He's got a pencil in his hand, like somebody stuck a pencil in his face. There's a pencil sticking out of his face.